Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe. We're reading Adi Lila chapter 4, which is the confidential reasons for the appearance of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, which means the secret meanings, the personal meanings, the internal meanings, and therefore the spiritual meaning, the spiritual reason for his appearance. This follows chapter 3, as I reminded you before, which was about the external reasons, the material reasons, the reasons related to others, to other material beings, to other material circumstances, to other jivas. And what we found all along the way is that these two tasks, these two desires go together. They go hand in hand in a way which tells us everything about our spiritual practice. Because just like us, Caitanya Mahaprabhu was a man in a material body, living in a material world, energized and given life by a soul, which has no other goal than to realize itself. Caitanya Mahaprabhu's soul is the soul of God, far greater than ours and far more powerful than ours. But in the essence, the path that he walked is the path that we walk. How to understand the divine in me as a material person, and how to understand this feeling of loving devotion in me and what it means for my relation to God. These are the questions that Caitanya Mahaprabhu struggled with all through his life. And these, in a much more modest and humble way, are the questions that we struggle with as well. I feel the divine in me. How should I live in this material life? And secondly, what is the meaning of the love I feel? What is the meaning of these feelings that seem to flow into everything, that seem to guide me everywhere I go? So we can use as both a guide and a reference and a model the life and spiritual biography of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Last week we read two verses, verse 49, which was very direct and simple, and then verse 50, which was more complicated, and where Srila Prabhupada had a very long commentary. So we spent most of last time trying to understand the relation between the verse and Prabhupada's commentary. Verse 49 simply presented the idea that Radharani's heart is pure, purer than any other, that the love that she feels is higher and purer and greater than any other. And that puts her in a supreme position relative to Mohan and relative to us. Verse 50 was in general about the way that Krishna's desires are fulfilled through Radharani. And there were many details. I'll remind you of a few. But the starting point was the verse that said, Krishna appeared as Caitanya Mahaprabhu because he wanted to fulfill his desires. And as we know, all of Krishna's desires are fulfilled. It's the very definition of Krishna. Krishna is the one whose desires are fulfilled. So if Krishna desires something, then it becomes truth, becomes the case. But as we know, there was one desire that was not fulfilled, to love God. He is God, Krishna, so he's never had the chance of loving God. And with the appearance of Caitanya Mahaprabhu comes this idea that by taking the mood, by taking the form, by taking the position of Radha, Krishna can experience something even higher than what he's desired. And that is essentially the beginning of our practice as bhaktas. There was some discussion in the commentary by Prabhupada about the different kinds of love. We talked about Dasya and Sakya and so on. And there the idea was that we use easily the words I am in love or I love you, but this idea of love has many different levels and many different characters, many different moods. And these terms like Dasya and Sakya and Vatsalya, these different kinds of love, as a servant, as a friend, as a parent, these help us to understand not that there are different kinds of love, but that love itself has different kinds of moods. That love is a general emotion, but it has waves. It has changes. It has fluctuations, variations. And this brought us to the idea, and I think it was not Prabhupada's, you cannot blame Prabhupada for this, it was my claim, my statement, that we are never not in love. That it is impossible for a jiva to not be in love. And if we think we are not in love, in some kind of loving relation to another jiva, it is because our material consciousness is telling us, no, you're not in love. But what we said last time was that one way of understanding spiritual path, one way of understanding our developing understanding of ourselves, our developing realization about ourselves, is to see that we are only ourselves when we are in relation to others. A self that is all alone, that has never heard of another self, another jiva, simply does not understand that she is a jiva. So there's always relation. And that means that there is always feeling. And that means that there is always love. So living our lives can never mean something like what we feel often in our hearts. It does not mean we need to go and find love. Maybe we'll go to some social events and try to find someone we can love. Maybe we'll have a family so we have someone we can love. Maybe we'll make friends so that we can have someone to love. No. Spiritual path means realizing, understanding that we are already in love, that we are already in loving relations. So let's think, let's think about a colleague at work who works on the desk, sits at the desk next to yours, a friend maybe, a distant friend, not a close friend, but you have a relation and you work every day. Realizing our own hearts means realizing that this other person is connected to our souls, that this person is connected to our heart, that we are truly in a relation of emotion, of feeling, of love with this other person. Whether it's a huge love or a small love is a second question. But that there is love there is a given. So what I finished with last time, I think, was to say that the purpose of life is not to find love, but to realize that we already have love. To exist, to live, means to realize that others live, which means to realize that we have a loving relation to others. Prabhupada commented then about Swakiya Bhav and Parakiya Bhav, about married mood and extramarital mood. We spoke a little bit about surrender. And then finally, the last point we talked about was the relation between Gopi Bhav and Manjari Bhav. And the final observation we made about that was that the gopis love Krishna, but the Manjaris love, how should I say, The Manjaris love loving Krishna. The Manjaris are interested in Krishna being loved. The gopis want to love him themselves. But the Manjaris want to see that there is love for Krishna, and they want to see that Radha is the one who gives love to Krishna. I'm going very quickly, and I don't want to spend too much time on last week, but that was the idea we ended with. Now we continue today with verse 51. Surishanam dhurgam gatir atyashyane upanishadam muninam sarvasvam pranata patalinam madhuryama viniryash premno nikelas pashu palambujadarisham sa chaitanya kim me punar appi drishor yasyati padam. This is, as Prabhupada points out, I think in his commentary, this is a verse written by Rupa Goswami in Sanskrit. It's a verse by Rupa Goswami from the collection of verses called Stavamala, and it's from a set of poems that glorify Chaitanya. It's called Pratama Chaitanyashtikam, which is translated the first 8 verses glorifying Chaitanya. So it's some verses that are glorifying Chaitanya. And I think you'll agree when you hear the translation that they glorify Chaitanya. So here is how Prabhupada translates from the Sanskrit. Lord Chaitanya is the shelter of the demigods, the goal of the Upanishads, the be-all and end-all of the great sages, the beautiful shelter of his devotees, and the essence of the love of the lotus-eyed gopis. Will he again be the object of my vision? So the verse is saying, this verse by Rupa Goswami is saying that Chaitanya is 5 different things. 5 different wonderful things. And therefore, because he's wonderful in these 5 ways, I want to see him. Rupa Goswami wants to see him and be with him and surrender to him. So he starts by saying Lord Chaitanya is the shelter of the demigods and the goal of the Upanishads. So it means that for all the demigods, then they can find shelter and happiness and security with Chaitanya. But what does it mean to be the goal of the Upanishads? The Upanishads, this is the part of the Vedas that explain in a very philosophical way what the reality is, what the world is, what consciousness is. And they're very, very important for us, but they're very important for bhakti, but they're missing the key to bhakti, which is feeling. So the Upanishads are describing the world, the consciousness, the mind, the body, and all these elements that are very important, but which are not involved with the feeling. So the Upanishads are an essential foundation for bhakti, but they are not everything. They're not enough. But anyway, the verse is saying Chaitanya, well, he is the goal of the Upanishads. So the Upanishads, they want to explain everything about the world, about the soul, about the nature of the universe, about the nature of God. Chaitanya is that. But as we know, he is more. He is more than that because he embodies the loving relationship as well. So he's the Upanishads plus something more. So he's the demigods, he's the Upanishads. Thirdly, he's the be-all and end-all of the great sages. This is a way of saying that he is everything that the great sages want to be. He is everything that the great sages want to achieve, accomplish. He does, if there's any great sage in the world, he aspires to exactly what Mahaprabhu did. So there's nothing that a great sage could imagine that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not do. He did all of it. The fourth one was the beautiful shelter of his devotees. This is very nice because it uses this word pranata, which means, so it doesn't say devotees, it says pranata. It says, and the pranata means those who bow down. So you know this expression, dandavat pranam? It's the same word, pranam, pranata, the ones that lie down at the feet. So anyone who surrenders to Mahaprabhu, he will take care of completely. He's the beautiful shelter of his devotees. The pranata patalyanam madhurima. So the sweet shelter of the devotees. And in a way, he's even saying that if you're a devotee and you surrender, then you become sweet. So he is the shelter of those devotees who surrender, and he makes them sweet. The moment you surrender, your heart becomes soft. The moment you surrender, your heart becomes sweet. And then finally, he's the essence of the love of the lotus-eyed gopis. This is maybe the most important for us. He's the essence of the love of the gopis. So he's not just the gopis, one by one. We know that there are 1,000,000 gopis. He's the essence of that love. He's the condensation of that love, the concentration of that love. He's not the love of the gopis itself. He's the totality of that love, the meaning of all that love. And that concentration of the gopis' love is Radha, of course. She is the source of that love because the gopis are all expansions of her, but also she's that addition, that concentration of all that love, which none of the individual gopis can attain. So all this is in a very sweet verse by Rupa Goswami for Caitanya Mahaprabhu. If you don't remember, Rupa Goswami was one of the 6 Goswamis and one of the first to associate with Lord Caitanya. It was in the beginning of the 1500s. He had heard about Caitanya. He had heard about his ideas. He'd heard about what he was doing. And he became a devotee, Rupa. And then when Caitanya was passing by, this is in West Bengal, Rupa went to meet him. And the moment he met him, he became completely surrendered to him, completely devoted to him and engaged. And it was that time, according to the stories, according to history, that when he met them, Caitanya took him into the forest for 10 days and gave him instruction, taught him everything. In only 10 days, everything about the world in 10 days. And then he said goodbye to Rupa Goswami and he gave him 2 tasks, 2 instructions. The first was to write books, and the second was to go back to Vrindavan and to reconstruct and establish the traditional sites of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, of Bhakti. So he was supposed to write books because Caitanya does not write books. He's a great scholar, he's a great preacher, he's a great devotee, but he does not write books. He only wrote as we know, the 8 verses of Shikshastakam. That was all he wrote. And it's because he doesn't want to be a book person. He wants to be a heart person. So he said to Rupa, you go and write. And of course, Rupa Goswami did go and write 100 wonderful books. And the most important of which for us is, the most important to us is the Bhakti Samrita Sindhu. And then he went, of course, to Vrindavan as well and established the original sites of Bhakti, which also means that long before Caitanya, Bhakti was alive, but that it was lost, forgotten. So something about what Krishna says when he says, I appear on this earth in order to remind us of what is lost, this is realized by Rupa Goswami when he rebuilds the traditional sites in Vrindavan. Okay, we continue verse 52, which is also a verse from Rupa Goswami. Aparam kasyapi pranaya jana vrindasya kutuki rastomam ritva maduram upakotum kam apyaha rucham sva avavre dyutim iatadyam prakatyayan sadevash chaitanyakritir atitaramna kripatyatu. This is from another set of poems called Dvitiya, Shri Chaitanya Shtika 3. So it's another verse giving the praising and giving glorifying Chaitanya. So here's the translation that Prabhupada makes. Lord Krishna desired to taste the limitless nectarian mellows of the love of one of his multitude of loving damsels, Shri Radha. And so he has assumed the form of Lord Chaitanya. He has tasted that love while hiding his own dark complexion with her effulgent yellow color. May that Lord Chaitanya confer upon us his grace. So it says Lord Chaitanya desired to taste the limitless nectarian mellows of the love of one of his multitude of loving damsels. The verse said he had boundless curiosity. Aparam means boundless. Aparam is the first word of the verse. Aparam, Kashyapi, and so on. Aparam means endless. Endless eagerness, endless desire. He already had a desire for something he could not get. Krishna was already desirous. And we know, of course, what it is he couldn't get. He wanted to know what it was like for all these people to love him. All the devotees loved him. He was so popular, so beautiful and knowledgeable and rich and opulent and so on. So he sees all these devotees worshipping him, glorifying him, and he says, I've never had that experience. What can that be like? There's another little important detail in the language of the verse. It doesn't say devotees, it doesn't say bhakta or something like that. It says pranya jana vrindasya. Pranya, you know this word maybe, beloved, or tender, or sweet, or cared for. So instead of devotees, it says those who were beloved by him. He loved them, and yet he wanted to know why and how they loved him. So this is a special kind of curiosity, isn't it? It's not a curiosity about knowledge. It's not a scientific curiosity. It's not a curiosity that says, I wonder what the temperature is in Tokyo today. It's not a curiosity about knowledge, or about facts, or about the intellect. What is it, this curiosity? It's a curiosity about feeling. So in the West, when we say curiosity, the word is, kutuki. When we say curiosity, we think, wouldn't it be interesting to know how much a caterpillar weighs in the summertime? Or how much rain falls in Vrindavan every year? That's an interesting question. My curiosity says, what's the answer? This is a different curiosity. And it's a curiosity that shakes up the Vaishnava tradition. It's a curiosity that says, what does that feel like? What is that feeling? How would it be to have that feeling that the gopis have? How would it be to have the feeling that the Radha has? It's amazing because Krishna created the world. He knows all the facts. He knows what the temperature is in Tokyo. He doesn't need to ask. But what he does not know, Krishna, our sweet friend, our sweet goat herd boy, he doesn't know what things feel like. So Krishna's master of the universe about knowledge and power and beauty, but ask him what it feels like. And he doesn't know. The soul creates feelings, and only the soul can experience feelings. So he has to be in the soul of someone who feels in order to know what someone feels. Feelings are known only by the soul. So how can he find out what love feels like? He assumes the soul of the greatest lover in the universe, Radharani. And so that's why the verse says, well, he wants to taste the mellows of one of the multitude of loving damsels, Shri Radha. But if we look closely, the verse does not name Radha. She's not in the verse. It doesn't say Radha. It says Rasa Stomam, which means the totality of all feeling, the essence of all feeling. She is the essence of all devotion, the essence of all loving emotion. And what he wants is Rasa Stoman. He wants that complete, he wants to have all the feeling. And to find all that feeling, to have all that feeling, he can only take the position of Radha. That's the only way to get it, to get into her position and know what she's experiencing. So Radha for Krishna here in this verse is the love of the gopis, the essence of the love of the gopis, all the love together. So by putting himself in that position, he can love like the gopis. And the totality of all the love of all the gopis is Radha. So it's her mood that she takes. And then finally, there's this part about the color. We're all familiar with the color of Caitanya. We know that he's this very remarkable combination of blue and gold, or black and gold. It says in the verse, he has tasted that love, the love of Radha, while hiding his own dark complexion with her effulgent yellow color. He reveals his own divine beauty through that golden color. It's like only through the color can we see the true beauty of Caitanya. We can see the radiance of God. We can see the feelings of God when he takes the feelings of Radha. So in a way, colors are not facts. I suppose a scientist would say they're factual because they can be measured with scientific instruments. But for us, color is feeling. So when Caitanya appears with this strange color, it's not because he has a message. It's because he has a feeling. He wants to show a feeling. And this we don't do with words. This we do with colors. Verse 53. Now come several verses without commentary again. Verse 53. Bhava granera hetu kaila dharma stapana tara mukya hetu kayis shuna sharvajana. Prabhupada translates like this. To accept ecstatic love is the main reason he appeared and established the religious system for this age. I shall now explain this reason. Everyone, please listen. So the reason why he came was to get that love, that ecstatic love, that bhava grahanera. And that's why he appeared, and that's why he established this religious system. But what is important here is that this religious system is not one of Vaidhi Bhakti. It's not one of rules and regulations and authority based on fear. The new religion, the new religious system, which is really not a religion, is Prema Bhakti. What he discovers, what he embodies by taking the position of Radha, is that loving God is the highest form of being. So there's no longer any need to focus on the opulence of God. Prema Bhakti focuses on loving God. So this is developed a bit more now as we continue in verse 54. Mula hetu aga shlokara kaila abasa eba kahi sei shlokara artha prakasha. Having first given hints about the verse describing the principal reason why the Lord appeared, now I shall manifest its full meaning. Why does he give hints instead of telling us earlier? Well, because hints increase our feeling. Hints give us a teasing of feeling. They make some excitement. They make some longing in our hearts. And that's why hints. He's been hinting, and now he comes to the point. So now we come to verse 55, which is a very important verse. Very deep and important. Radha Krishna Pranyaya Vikritir Ladini Shaktir Asmad Ekatmanav Api Bhuvi Pura Dei Bedam Gato Tao Caitanya Kyam Prakatam Aduntad Dvayam Chai Kyam Aptam Rahada Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Svarupam. Here's the translation from Prabhupada. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now, these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Shri Krishna Caitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and the complexion of Shrimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So many things happening in this verse, many beautiful things. Prabhupada points out first that this is a text which is taken from the diary of Damodar Goswami. Damodar was the secretary of Mahaprabhu when he was living in Puri. And much of what we read in Caitanya Caritamrta is actually based on Damodar's diaries. So let's look at this verse now with all its beauty and detail. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Ladini Shaktir Asmad. So, what should we say? Krishna and Radha's love is transcendental, but it's changed, it's transformed, it says in this verse, by Ladini Shakti, by the energy, by the pleasure-giving energy or the bliss-giving energy, the happiness-giving energy. In the past, Radha and Krishna have always loved. We can read about them in the Mahabharata, in the Purana. Everywhere we see Radha popping up as a kind of girlfriend of Krishna. But this love in the past is external. It's always been admiration from the outside. They've been lovers who love each other based on what they know externally about the other. It's like falling in love with someone based on the social media profile they have. All the facts, the income, the place they live, the house they have, the car they drive, the job they have. It's like being in love on the basis of a social media profile. What happens with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that they come together devotionally. They come together internally, spiritually. They see each other as souls, and on that foundation their love grows. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, the verse says, so ekatma, ekatmanav, they're one soul, eka atma, two souls in one. They separated themselves and they were external to each other. So they were originally one soul, this says. They got sort of separated and lost, and now through Chaitanya they've come back together again. Now these two transcendental identities have again united, says the verse, in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So there's admiration for Caitanya, who has taken this form, who has embodied this desire of Krishna to know Radha, to get to know her, and to see what she sees, to take on her mood, to take on her feelings, to take on her color, this golden color, so that she can reveal to Krishna what it is to love divinely, what prem is. So this color, this golden color, together with the bluish color of Krishna, this is a certain kind of mood. It's a feeling. It's the feeling of what it's like to be so close to your lover, to know her or him so closely, and then at the same time always have to search to unite with him or her. This is the mood. And as we'll come to see, I think just in a moment, if I'm not wrong, this is the mood of the Manjari. Always wanting the lovers to be together and always having to confront the difficulties, the challenges that go together with keeping them together, those two lovers. The next verse continues this idea, 56. Radha Krishna eka atma dui deha dari, anyonye vilase rasa asfadana kari. Radha and Krishna are one and the same. Eka atma. But they have assumed two bodies. Dui deha dari. Thus they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love. The mellows of love is rasa. Enjoying the rasa. Enjoying the mellows of love. The message here is that only by being two can they enjoy. Can they even know what feeling is? Can they have pleasure? Only in relation to another can they know what love is. Obviously, only in the connection, the longing, the admiring, the beauty of wanting what is not you, the beauty of forgetting your own ego, of loving so much and in such a way that you don't even care about yourself. That is the kind of love that is embodied in Radha and Mohan. And that's the kind of love that lets the energy of Radha's internal potency flow. Now comes a long commentary by Prabhupada, but a very good one. And he starts, Prabhupada, by talking about materialism, and then he's going to go over to the question of internal energy. He says, the two transcendentalists, Radha and Krishna, are a puzzle to materialists. So Radha and Mohan, the materialists, they can't understand this. What's their problem? They think, the materialists think, that understanding Radha and Mohan means understanding Radha and understanding Mohan. They don't realize that the point is to understand the relation between Radha and Mohan. So materialists are very good at seeing things, seeing stones and trees and bodies and lakes and rivers. They see many things. They're very important, but they don't see relations. And I guess we can forgive them because relations aren't there. If I stand next to you in a room and ask a materialist, what do you see? The materialist would say, well, I see you, Uddhava, and I see this other person you're standing together with. And then we would say, wouldn't we, don't you see the relation? And the materialist would say, I see nothing. No. Where's the relation? Because we cannot see a relation. A relation is not there, in a way. Feelings are not there. Love is not there in a material sense. It's only with spiritual consciousness that we can see and understand relation. So materialists are wrong, according to Prabhupada, because they look at the world with scientific material eyes. They're blind. They don't see a thing. But from the moment they look at the world with their devotional eyes, their spiritual eyes, then they see nothing but magnetic energy flowing between you and me. Feelings of this and that, and love and interest and wonder and longing and curiosity, and all of it's there. Prabhupada continues and says, the above description of Radha and Krishna from the diary of Srila Svarup Damodar Goswami is a condensed explanation, but one needs great spiritual insight to understand the mystery of these two personalities. Well, maybe, but the good news is that you all have great spiritual insight. And you know that it's about the relation. You know that it's not about Krishna as Krishna, and you know it's not about Radha. We're not Krishna worshippers, we're not Radha worshippers, we're Radha Mohan worshippers. We're worshippers of the love they feel, the prema. We're worshippers of the relation, we're servants of the relation. So this is easy for us. We don't need a God, we need godly love. Prabhupada says, one is enjoying in two. Sri Krishna is the potent factor, and Srimati Radharani is the internal potency. Potent and potency. One is enjoying in two. I think the key word is enjoying. Sometimes we say relishing. We don't say like the Old Testament says, or like the Quran says, God is love. In Bhakti we say God is loving. God is enjoying love. God is made satisfied by love. God is made happy by love. The highest level of enjoyment is called love. What is required in order to enjoy love? And how does Caitanya Mahaprabhu give us that? There are three things that are required. One is the giver of the love, the subject of the love, the lover, if you like, Radha. The second is the receiver of the love, the object of the love, the beloved, Mohan. But there's a third, as Gurudev teaches us, like nobody else I can know of teaches. The third thing that's necessary in order to experience enjoyment is to see and to experience and to serve the energy of love, the movement of love. There's needed helper of love, a guardian of love, the one who makes the relation between these two lovers happen. The, what do you call that, intermediary, the one who manages the relation. This is called Manjari, or Manjari Bhav. So enjoyment requires three things: a lover, a beloved, and a helper. And this is why we say that Caitanya Mahaprabhu brings Manjari Bhav. That's one of his gifts to the world. That not only does he bring the ocean of love, Krishna, not only does he bring the pleasure-giving energy, Radha, he also gives us the awareness that we can experience this flow between, that we can experience the relation between lover and beloved in our own lives and in Manjari consciousness, in the life of Radha and Mohan. The problem is, says Prabhupada, that the people don't know how to distinguish between love and loving. Or he puts it in the words, there it is, the potent and the potency. Old-fashioned Vedanta philosophers think they're the same thing. What's the difference between potent and potency? Well, potent means energy or power, but potency means energy in action, the flow of energy, the movement of energy. So Krishna and Radha are different, exactly in this way. The one is energy, potent, that's Krishna, and the other is potency, the movement of energy, the flow of energy. The one is love, the other is loving. So Vedanta philosophy says Prabhupada doesn't understand the difference between love and loving. We're not looking for a big ocean full of love. We're looking for an experience of loving. That's what Mahaprabhu brings us. And that's why Mahaprabhu came to it, because Krishna didn't want to be the ocean of love. Krishna is God. He's all love. He's all beauty. He's all pleasure. But there was no movement. There was no action. There was no experience. So he said, I want to know what the experience is. It's wonderful that the universe is full of love, but let's understand how loving happens, how that love becomes an impact on other people's lives and other souls. Prabhupada says everything in the absolute is inconceivable in relative existence. So if you just see the world from the point of view of Krishna, then you just see an ocean of love. If you see the world from the point of view of Radha only, then you just see Ladani Shakti. But if you step back and see Radha and Mohan together, then you see the ocean of love flowing through Radha into the heart of Krishna. When we put ourselves in a situation where we can understand both Radha and Mohan, then we understand that the highest thing in the world is the flow of love between them. And who puts herself in the position to see Radha and Mohan? Who is it that's in that position? Manjari. Radha, Mohan, Manjari Bhav. If we see the world from the eyes of Manjari, then we understand that the highest thing there is loving, the flow of love, prem. This thing that Krishna cannot see, and actually that Radha cannot see either. Only Manjari knows that the point of everything, that the goal of everything is to make love flow between Radha and Mohan. Mohan's too silly to know this. He's too naughty and crazy to know that. And Radha, she's a little bit too focused on immediate meeting and pleasure to know that the goal of life is to let love flow between the two parts of God, the lover and the beloved, and therefore to let love flow through all beings. And that's also what Prabhupada says, if I remember correctly. Therefore, in the relative cognizance, it is very difficult to assimilate the truth of oneness. So if you just take the point of view of Radha or Mohan, then you don't understand. The philosophy of inconceivable oneness and difference, so this achintya beda is the only source of understanding for such intricacies of transcendence. Only if we understand that both Radha and Mohan are the divine, and that the love that's flowing between them is the divine, only if we understand those three things can we understand our own lives. So God is both love and loving. God is both Krishna and Radha and the love that flows between them. Three things. And those three things are present in every jiva. Radha, Mohan, and the pastime. Radha, Mohan, and the love that flows. God is both what I feel in my friendship with you and what you feel in your friendship with me. The love that you feel in our friendship is the love that Krishna feels. The love that you give in our friendship is the love that Radha gives. Impersonalists, Prabhupada says, cannot understand this without the help of a Mahabhagavat devotee, so a very wise devotee. The very name Radha suggests that Srimati Radharani is eternally the topmost mistress of the comforts of Shri Krishna. As such, she is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Shri Krishna. There you have it. She is the medium, so she is the messenger. She's the pipeline, if you like, that carries the message. She is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Sri Krishna. And that is exactly the core of our practice. Radha is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Krishna. Our service to Radha, Radha service to Mohan. We serve Radha in our Manjari consciousness, and this service becomes the energy that is given from Radha to Krishna. She is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Sri Krishna. Our love flows to Radha. That love flows again to Krishna. Always with the understanding that it's not Krishna who's the goal. It's the love itself. So bhakti means loving service to God. We serve Radha so that she can serve Krishna. Well, let's finish this commentary, and then I think it's quite heavy today, so we'll come in for a landing slowly. Let's see. Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu personally approaches the fallen, conditioned souls of the Iron Age to deliver the highest principle of transcendental relationships with the Lord. So all of us who live in the condition of material reality, absolutely every single one of us, we're equal in this way. Mahaprabhu extends a hand and says that you can have this relationship with Radha and Krishna through the relationship that she has to him. And he goes on, the activities of Lord Caitanya are primarily in the role of the pleasure-giving portion of his internal potency. So the most important thing about the Mahaprabhu is his role in letting this Ladani Shakti, this happiness-giving energy of Radha, letting it flow, letting it find its way to the heart of Mohan. The absolute personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, is the omnipotent form of transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss. So if we look carefully, Prabhupada just said that Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, is consciousness itself. The Upanishads define consciousness as Satchit Ananda, being, consciousness, and happiness or bliss. And that is what Prabhupada just said Krishna is. He's the omnipotent form of transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss in full. So he's really explaining the essence of the soul, the essence of every individual soul, your soul and my soul, and the essence of his own soul. So here's what he says, and then we'll finish. His internal potency is exhibited first as Sat, or existence, or in other words, as the portion that expands the existence function of the Lord. And when that same potency displays full knowledge, it is called Chit, or Samvit, which expands the transcendental form of the Lord. Finally, when the same potency plays as a pleasure-giving medium, it is known as Ladani, or the transcendental blissful potency. What Prabhupada is saying here, summarizing, is that what we see played out in the very life of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, is the nature of the human soul. We see their being, we see their consciousness, and most important of all, we see the flow of the pleasure-giving energy, the Ladani Shakti, the happiness-carrying energy of Radharani, all these in the form of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Thus the Lord manifests his internal potency in three transcendental divisions. So there we have a very nice meditation for next week. What is Satchitananda? What is the nature of the soul? How is Ananda the expression of our own love-giving nature? Here we'll stop a little bit early, but it's been a very, very heavy lesson, I think, today. at least for me. So we'll stop here and let things...
Not to stop, it's so beautifully explaining. My God, so easy words you explain so beautifully.
Shri Radhe.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, my dear.
This is the key point. If this is clear, everything. Explain again Satchidananda.
Very happily.
Say to they understand or not. Ask to them and again explain.
Yes, I don't know if they understand. They're smiling like they understand, but...
Repeat again.
Yes.
So beautifully, for new, for me.
It's new for me too. Here. It's what Prabhupada is saying, that Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the embodiment of Satchitananda. Satchitananda is a very old idea from the Upanishads, from the Vedas, that says that the soul of every jiva and the soul of God has three parts. Sat, which is being or existence. Chit, which is consciousness, knowing that you are, knowing that you live, knowing that you have a soul. And Ananda, of course, bliss or happiness. And what Prabhupada is saying in this commentary is that all those three parts come out in Caitanya Mahaprabhu. That first we have Radha and Mohan who are appearing as Caitanya Mahaprabhu, that we experience them as the divine. So this is the Sat, the being, the existence. And then Chit, the consciousness, we understand, we are aware and conscious that Radha is there for communicating her love to Mohan, and Mohan is there as the receiver of this love, and that Manjari consciousness is there to arrange it. So Chit is Manjari consciousness. Chit is this consciousness, is the Manjari who is conscious and understands the pastime of Radha and Mohan in a way that no one else does, in a way that Radha does not and that Mohan does not. And then finally, Ananda, the purpose of Radha's internal energy, Ladani Shakti, is of course to give the bliss to Mohan. So in the Leela, in the relation between Radha and Mohan, guided by the Manjaris, we have Sat, Chit, Ananda. In our consciousness, the consciousness of every jiva, there is Radha, Mohan, and Manjari Bhav. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Radhe, Radhe, Go.